welcome to the Bible for Worship at St. Paul Lutheran Church on this 17th Sunday after Pentecost, when our gospel lesson is written in Mark chapter 9, verses 30 through 37. Jesus and the disciples went on from there and passed through Galilee. He did not want anyone to know it, for he was teaching his disciples, saying to them, "The Son of Man is to be betrayed into human hands, and they will kill him, and 3 days after being killed, he will rise again." But they did not understand what he was saying, and were afraid to ask him. Then they came to Capernaum, and when he was in the house, he asked them, "What were you arguing about on the way?" But they were silent, for on the way they had argued with one another who was the greatest. He sat down, called the 12, and said to them, "Whoever wants to be first must be last of all and servant of all." Then he took a little child and put it among them, and taking it in his arms, he said to them, "Whoever welcomes one such child in my name welcomes me. And whoever welcomes me welcomes not me, but the one who sent me." The Gospel of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Here in the 9th chapter of Mark, we have passed what we might call the synoptic turning point, that moment out on the edges of the territory that Jesus saw in his lifetime, out near Caesarea Philippi, far to the northeast of Jerusalem, and even northeast of Galilee. That moment in Caesarea Philippi is the one in which Jesus asks the disciples, "Who do people say that I am?" And some say John the Baptist, and others say one of the prophets. Peter says, "You are the Christ, the Son of the living God." And with that, the gospel takes a turn. Jesus, in Mark, commands the disciples to tell no one what they have just said or learned, and goes on to predict that they will go to Jerusalem, that he will be handed over to death, crucified, and on the third day rise. That turning point back toward Jerusalem, the turning point toward the cross, the turning point toward Jesus' final act of love, of dedication, of obedience, the act that leads to his lordship. There are 3 of these passion predictions in Mark. This is the second one. The first one takes place near Caesarea Philippi, right after Peter's saying, "You are the Christ." And when Jesus gives that passion prediction about his death and resurrection, Peter challenges him, "No, Lord, not you." And Jesus famously says, "Get behind me, Satan." Here in the second passion prediction, when Jesus says this to his disciples, perhaps they've learned their lesson a bit from Peter's experience, and so they don't question, they don't challenge. Mark tells us they were scared to ask him about it. But they go on to debate among themselves, who is the greatest among the disciples? Well, in the third passion prediction, which comes up near the end of chapter 10, verses 32 to 34, once again, there is no challenge, no question to what Jesus says, but there, James and John, 2 of the disciples, right out ask Jesus to give them places of honor. Their response is not to challenge, nor to remain silent in fear, but nor even just to debate who might be greatest, but to seek to capitalize on it. Maybe they had thought that if indeed Jesus would rise from the dead, there was something in it for them that they could secure from him while still on the road toward the cross. But in all three of these, however the disciples respond, Jesus turns the focus toward the cross and servanthood. He indicates that the cross is not a free pass into the kingdom of God, but rather the cross is what gives the freedom to serve. When one knows that Christ has won the kingdom for us, then our attentions can be turned to the well-being and the care of others, the good fortunes of others, the blessing of others. So as much as the cross opens the door to the kingdom through the open tomb, so at the same time, it gives freedom to serve. Those who would be first must be servant of all. Those who would be greatest must be servant of all, Jesus says. There's a kind of lead from behind image that's at work here, leading from behind into the kingdom, supporting, nurturing, ushering all other people toward that kingdom which the believer already knows and to which all people now have access through the cross. This is not slavery. This is not servanthood to be enslaved for another's exploitation. This is not suffering simply so that another can be more comfortable. But this is an active humility. Jesus says of the one who receives the child, whoever receives one such child in my name, for my sake, the way Jesus does, serving the need of the other. In that humility, one serves in order to free another from their own slavery, whether it be to power or wealth or self-indulgence or pride or whatever it might be. This is servanthood that serves in order to free the other for their own servanthood. So that as we have been set free by the cross, so they can join us in leading from behind and thus becoming first in the kingdom of God. God bless.